Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Tanya, or TitaniumBuilt, and welcome to all the new people. If this is your first time viewing, hi, hello, and welcome. If you're a returning Titan, welcome on back, and thank you for joining me for yet another upload. I truly do appreciate everybody being here and watching my videos and just taking the time to like, comment, and subscribe to my content. It really does mean a lot. We are going to be discussing the Idaho 4 case again today. We've been discussing this case for a long time now. We don't have any new information. Well, we weren't supposed to have any new information until June 26th because of the restricted tight gag order. But there's been little things popping out here and there pretty regularly, I would say. So I was just surfing the internet tonight and I was just looking around, just seeing what was going on in the world. And I came across an article. It is on Daily Mail. Don't come for me because it's also on a few other websites. So I'm only going off of Daily Mail because it's easier for me to read the bigger font. I have one eye, guys, so it's easier for me to read. And so these are on different websites as well. But I wanted to, before we get into what that article details, I want to explain to you what a firing squad is and kind of the death penalty aspect of this case. So if Bryan Kohberger is in fact, charged with the death penalty, they're bringing back the firing squad in the state of Idaho. Now, a lot of people may not know what a firing squad is, so I'm your girl to tell you. Basically, I just looked up the definition here, but a firing squad is, it says, what does executed by firing squad mean? Death by firing squad is a form of execution usually reserved for military personnel. The concept is simple. A prisoner either stands or sits against a brick wall or some other heavy barrier. 5 or more soldiers line up side by side several feet away, and each one aims their firearm directly at the prisoner's heart. So they're not just firing aimlessly, they're aiming straight for the heart. You get shot in your heart, you're not going to recover that. Or you're not going to recover from that one. So it's not like it's any worse than if you were to do lethal injection in my eyes. But I want to go ahead and read the Daily Mail article to you. And then I do have a little bit of other pieces of information about when the last time firing squads were used, how many people, have been killed using a firing squad. And I'll get to those in just a moment. But this is the article here in Daily Mail. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. There we go. There we go. That's big for you guys. Awesome. Up at the top, and it says Bryan Kohberger could face firing squad if he's convicted of Idaho murders, thanks to new bill introduced by local lawmaker. Bryan Kohberger, 28, may face a firing squad if he is found guilty for the quadruple homicide of 4 Idaho college students last year. Prosecutors could potentially recommend the death penalty if he's found guilty. At the same time, Representative Bruce, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, I'm going to call it Skagg, a Republican from Nampa, has sponsored a bill legalizing firing squad as a form of execution. And you can see here, this was dated February 26th, and that's when I'm recording this. And this came out just a couple hours ago. Accused Idaho murderer Bryan Kohberger could face a firing squad if he is found guilty for the quadruple homicide of 4 college students last year. Lawyers are believed to be gearing up for the possibility of a death penalty trial for the 28-year-old criminal justice major who remains the only suspect in the November 13th slayings of University of Idaho students Kaylee Gonzalez, 21, Madison Mogan, 21, Ethan Chapin, 20, and Xana Kernodle, 20. Prosecutors haven't yet indicated whether they intend to pursue the death penalty for Kohberger, although it seems likely they will given the gravity of his alleged crimes. And now Republican state lawmaker Representative Bruce Skagg has introduced a bill that would once again allow for execution by firing squad in the state as well as lethal injection. Skagg's bill states that the Idaho Department of Corrections must determine whether execution by lethal injection is an available method no later than 5 days after a death warrant is issued. And if you've been living under a rock, the last few months, this is Mr. Bryan Kohberger here. So that is the alleged killer. This is Skag, the guy that's, trying to get the bill passed for the firing squad to be able to come back in and be used as a method. If this method is not available, the IDOC may elect to use a firing squad. So what it's saying is, if it doesn't have lethal injection, if it doesn't have that on hand, they may have to opt for a firing squad. But I'm going to let you know, and this is in another article I will read to you guys, when you are a prisoner and you're on death row, you will get the option of lethal injection or firing squad. They're not just going to send you into the chambers and shoot you. They are having problems with getting the drugs that are needed for lethal injection at the moment. I believe they'll keep him on death row for many, many, many years until, the drugs are available. It says, and he pointed out to the Idaho Capitol Sun, other states like Utah have brought back the use of firing squad in recent years due to their inability to get the lethal injection chemicals. And I just said that, sorry. A public hearing on the bill will now be held in the Idaho House Judiciary Rules and Administrative Committee, which Skog chairs. Death by firing squad was legal in Idaho from 1982 through 2009 when the legislature removed it as an option. That left lethal injection as the only legal form of execution in the state. But acquiring the chemicals used in lethal injection has become increasingly difficult. Last year, the legislature passed a bill allowing any company or pharmacy that provided the chemicals used in lethal injection with anonymity in hopes that more companies and pharmacies would be willing to contract with the legislator to provide the necessary ingredients. Still in November, the Idaho Department of Corrections was forced to cancel the scheduled execution of Gerald Pizzuto Jr. when it could not obtain the chemicals necessary to carry out the execution. See, they didn't just go, fire squad didn't come out there. Prosecutors have laid out in charging documents how Kohberger stalked his alleged victim's off-campus home in Moscow for weeks before the murders and kept multiple photos of one of the female students on his phone. Some of his former friends have even told FBI and state investigators how Kohberger changed both physically and emotionally in his senior year of high school, even apparently getting a tummy tuck. Prosecutors have laid out in court documents how Kohberger turned off his phone on the night of the murders in an alleged attempt to cover his tracks before brutally stabbing the 4 college students. He is even alleged to have returned to the crime scene or the scene of the crime at 9 a.m. on November 13th, just hours after police believe he committed the quadruple homicide. The probable cause document then goes on to say that the criminal justice graduate stalked the property at least 12 times, and his DNA was found on a knife sheath close to the bodies of Maddie Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez. An ensuing investigation of Kohberger's apartment at Washington State University later found several hair strands, including one suspected animal hair, a black glove, a computer tower, and one identified item with a collection of dark red spots. Police said they also hauled away a pillow with a reddish-brown stain on it and the top and bottom of a mattress cover with multiple stains. All the items are now being stored at the Washington State University Police Department. A motive for the brutal killings remains unclear, but sources familiar with the investigation have told People magazine that Kohberger had more than one photograph of one of the 4 murdered students, saying it was clear he was. It just says clear he was. Okay. The criminal justice major, 28, had more than one photo of one of the 4 murdered students, with sources telling People it was clear that he was paying attention to her. It is not clear if the images found on the device were photos that Kohberger had taken himself or if they were downloaded from her social media, and if they were taken before or after the quadruple slaying. Meanwhile, some of Kohberger's former friends have come forward to reveal how Kohberger changed both emotionally and physically in high school. They said that between his junior and senior year, Kohberger started kickboxing every day after school and running in the evenings. He also became hyper-focused on what he was eating, they said, to the point that he developed an eating disorder that required him to be hospitalized. One friend, Thomas Arnett's, estimated that Kohberger had weighed more than 300 pounds before losing as much as half of his body mass. The weight loss was so quick, he told the Spokesman Review, that he had to get a tummy tuck surgery because he was left with so much excess skin. Around that time, he said Kohberger also became more aggressive. It almost seemed to me he had a desire to be the alpha. For no reason, he tried to grapple me and put me in headlocks when I didn't want to. He tried to portray it was just boys being boys, but that's not the way I ever took it. Kohberger is now being represented by Chief Public Defender Ann Taylor, who will be paid $200 an hour in his case with any additional overtime. She will be paid by Kootenai County for her 40-hour work week, with Latah County officials agreeing to give the funds to Kootenai for her work. But any overtime that she requires outside of those hours will be paid by Latah County directly to the attorney. Officials say Taylor is one of just 13 police or public defenders in Idaho approved by the state's Public Defense Commission to lead a capital punishment case, and the only one in all of North Idaho. Latah County does not have a public defender who is qualified to represent victims in capital cases, but they wanted to ensure they had a team of attorneys who can represent in death penalty cases. It could indicate that the prosecutors are leaning towards pursuing the death penalty, with the payment for that kind of representation discussed in the agreement. Idaho also has a voluntary capital crimes defense fund, which requires specific criteria, including a prosecutor declaring they seek the death penalty within 30 days of the defendant entering pleas. Kohberger is expected to enter a plea on June 26, around the same time as the presentation of evidence, so Latah County has until the end of July to officially pursue the death penalty. He is charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of felony burglary, and waived his right to a speedy preliminary hearing in January. Kohberger is now expected to enter a plea on June 26, which means the Latah County prosecutor has until the end of July to officially pursue the death penalty. In the meantime, the 6-bedroom, 3-bathroom property where the 4 college students lived and were killed is said to be demolished this semester. It already appeared to have been boarded up on Thursday, though it is unclear if it is to ensure evidence is preserved or to allow for a cleanup operation ahead of demolition. In an email sent to staff and students, President of the University of Idaho, Scott Green, said, "This is a healing step and removes the physical structure where the crime that shook our community was committed. Demolition also removes efforts to return or to further sensationalize the crime scene. There are also plans in place for students to be involved in the future developments of the property, as well as the memorial garden to be erected on university grounds." And so that's the house boarded up there. And then I wanted to show you a couple more things, actually, just very short things. So I just wanted to show you here, the last person to be executed by firing squad in the United States was Ronnie Lee Gardner in 2010. He chose this method because there would be no mistakes, he said. A hood was placed over his head and a target strapped to his chest before a 5-member team of law enforcement agencies fired a series of shots on him. How many people die from firing squad? Since 1960, there have been 4 executions by firing squad, all of them in Utah. The 1960 execution, and it tells you them, the 1977 execution, the 1996 execution, and then I believe the one they were just talking about now, the 2010 execution. So with that being said, I don't believe that Kohberger will die by firing squad unless he opts for that. He has to physically say, yeah, I want the firing squad. I mean, unless it really came down to no medications at all, that there was not going to be any for years, decades, I would even assume, then maybe. But we have to, I mean, even though these people, and he's only accused allegedly, but we have to treat people, even if they are on death row, like still like humans. We can't just, put them down like dogs. We have to at least try to do that in a humane way, like with lethal injection. Personally, what would you guys choose if you were in this situation? I know a lot of you guys would never ever be in this situation, but would you choose firing squad where you have, 5, 6 people lined up, all aiming for your heart, or get a needle stuck in your arm, bunch of people watching? Just seems like that'd be slower to me. I don't know. I don't know what I would opt for, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I really would love to know. I do check all my comments. I love to hear from you guys. So I will see you guys in the next live or the next video. Thank you so much. And if you guys would, please subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to like the video on your way out. It truly does mean the world to me and it helps my channel grow. Thanks, guys.